guys, welcome back. I am really excited to be filming this because you know what that means? 3 months later, and it is done. It is done.
The big checklist that's like,
boom,
sell a house, find a house, make a video saying it's over.
It's over. So that is what we're doing today. Back in, I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, and that'll get into the story even, it was like April 20 something that we announced that we were moving from Fresno, California to Las Vegas, Nevada. I know that because our house sold by the end of April, and that was all within a 5-day process. That's why I know that. But anyway, when we announced it, we told you guys that once this was all done, and I said likely it would be sometime in July, that we would do a video on this entire process. So many of you actually wanted to know what it was like truly moving from state to state, not just down the street, you know? And if you guys follow me for a long time, you know, for me, I was born and raised in Fresno, California. Like, I never left. This was so new to me. And you were always in California, but you had moved a little bit growing up. But for the most part, you know, this was definitely a new experience. So over the weekend, I also went on Instagram and had you guys leave your questions just so I, you know, can touch on those as well. And I think the best way we can go about doing this is kind of just explaining the process. And I think the majority of your questions, there's about 20 of them, will fall into it somehow. And I'll put them up on the screen for you guys too. I hope you guys enjoy. Please do give this video a thumbs up. We do appreciate it. We're so happy to be doing this finally. I was telling Nate, I guess it's been said that the two most stressful things in life, I guess, according to Google, is planning a wedding. I get that, or it could be for sure, and buying or selling, moving of a house. And it's an experience. It is. And again, when we announced that we were doing this, and a lot of you commented that many of you have moved like 10 plus times buying and selling. I'm like, oh no, no. And then a lot of you had mentioned that you have never done it. You don't know the first thing about buying a house or selling one for that matter. And I totally get it. We've all started somewhere. And so I thought I could also even put, like, kind of as we talk about this, some terms that you'll hear that even throughout this process, even though I knew what they were, I had to still ask them, like, what is that? You know? And I'll put it in layman's terms for you. I got you. So it could be helpful.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the truth. I personally, and we kind of already talked about this, I don't really care personally about talking about personal numbers when it comes to buying and selling. And at the end of the day, it's public record. It actually is. If you have the address to different places, you can find what things were bought and sold for. Now, I also understand there's a tactful way to do things as well. And so I want to be as transparent as possible, but also tactful. And so we're not going to say exactly what we sold our house for exactly, or what we bought for, but I would like to, because there is a question on here, in fact too, I have it pulled up over here, curious to know, excluding buying the actual house, what costs are entailed in this process. And I know for me, when we did decide, that was the first thing I asked a friend who moved within 6 months ago. I'm like, what do I need? Besides the house cost of like what the actual, you know, amount is, what do I need to do? What do I need to have?
You actually need to be able to.
Yeah, I will definitely share with you kind of some like ranges of what we have discovered when it comes to those kinds of things for sure. But I know you guys understand, you get it. It's just, again, just trying to be kind of tactful to that. One of the first questions that I actually got to was, what did you do to, this will start the story in fact, what did you do to prepare to get your house ready for like an open house? So when you're selling a house, that's kind of how it works. Unless you just have someone that you already know and it's going to work out, good for you. But majority of people have to first get their house ready to list, to put on the market, and find a realtor. Again, you can technically sell by owner and not even go through a realtor, but most people, in most cases, you get a realtor. And so what did we do? Again, it was one of those, we found out he was going to be starting work here, and that is why we moved. In fact, it was a job promotion for Nate. You know, we didn't have much time, and so our house wasn't even prepared to. It wasn't like we were thinking about it, and
we didn't spend 2 or 3 months like, okay, let's get it going. We'll be in the market by this time. It was like, hey, honey,
it's happening.
They said yes. They actually do want me.
Yeah.
You're gonna pack the house up.
You're gonna pack that up. So really, in our case, I mean, we could have probably done a better job. We could have probably done a worse job than what we did do. We packed up as much as we could that could go into a box that was kind of just to make a picture look pretty, you know, to make the house photogenic. Shove things in closets.
First few days, it was kind of like declutter. What have we wanted to throw away for a hot minute? Let's get rid of that. So that all went in the garage and just got it out of the way. So you kind of see and feel.
A garage is your friend for sure, because they don't really photograph that for listing it and stuff. The other thing is, and to mention it because it definitely applies still, is, you know, I was stressed, of course, to do this in the matter of a couple days for sure. But in today's market, and it still applies as far as I know, although I had not looked at any homes since we've been here, I am done. But this market is crazy. You will hear that right now, that it is a seller's market, 100%. You know pretty much that if you put your house on the market right now, it's going to sell probably very, very fast. So I had that in my mind too, that things did not have to be perfect because it just is what it is right now. So that was in our favor for sure. And we did list on a Friday morning, and we had our first offer that night, and there was plenty of offers, like lots. It's what it is right now, but it was not always that way. And finding a realtor, typically you'll know someone through the grapevine. I happened again, a friend of mine had moved about 6 months ago, and I used hers, and I was like, oh, give me the number, you know, and she shows up that day. It's how it works. So that's really not a big challenge for most people. Typically, you know someone that knows someone. It was listed within a week. It was. And again, it had offers immediately, basically. So then you basically, you know, accept an offer, and you agree to all terms that, you know, it's not that simple right now of like, you put up a price. I'm just going to throw a number out there. This is not the number, but let's just simple math. Let's just say you put your house up for $500,000. If you did that right now, you would think as a buyer, if you go, okay, I'm offering $500,000, that it's yours. That is not how it works right now, like at all. It sucks. It really does. And it's, you know, you hear about bidding wars and all this stuff. It's a thing. It is a thing. It really is. You kind of, again, you're going to have offers probably coming in your way that are over the asking price, you know, and that's, you know, exciting, sure, as a seller, but then it becomes, now it has to work out. And what I mean by that, let's just say then on that $500,000 house, someone offers $550,000, which sounds crazy, but it's a real thing right now, just in general. Then from there, that offer, you accept it. Well, now you have to get an appraisal on the house. And this is where things can get tricky, assuming that your buyer, you know, let's say doesn't have that extra cash up front of that 50 extra, assuming your house appraises at 500,000. This is where things get really messy.
The appraisal is the house appraises, and that's how much a bank will give you, or a lender will give you in value towards your house. Like that's how much you can get a loan for. So in that scenario, if somebody offered $550,000, the house appraises for the $500,000, there's $50,000 that person just has to have in actual cash to go,
here, I
I'll
still
pay
want
over
it.
that, and I still need that $500 as a loan, but that $50 I got, and I offered that extra. And so some people that have more flexibility or more capital or liquid in hand money
in hand,
they're able to be more aggressive with those offers.
And that's when you hear people say make aggressive offers, that's typically what they're referring to, is people are coming in hard with extra cash to outbid anybody else. And it's a real thing. But let's say that person doesn't have that money in hand for that extra, and it doesn't appraise again at 550, it only appraises at 500. Then guess what? That offer, that whole thing, you just start over.
Yeah, so there's another word contingencies.
Yep.
And they're a nightmare.
They're awful.
Nightmare.
Especially for a seller.
For sellers. Contingency. It's contingent upon it appraising for at least this much. And I'll only do 10 grand over what it appraises for, but I'll go up to that 550, which means they only have 10 grand in hand. But they're willing, if the bank will give it to me, I'll buy it. So there's craziness in there. And I think that's where, as you said earlier, having a realtor or not having a realtor
makes a difference.
That's the person who explains that to you. That's the person who walks you through that scenario when you start to get those offers.
And so that's just where, again, when you talk about the market now, this is what you're hearing, why people are so stressed out and why it's so crazy. It is because you can just have so many offers. You're on top of the world, right? Everything is looking good, and then it crashes. And the weird thing to me is that because
Here we go. That was a global idea. We're just gonna start talking about the things.
Obviously, because you're thinking what I'm thinking. Why is it that the house is not appraised prior to you actually listing your house? So that way you know what it's actually gonna appraise for, what someone's gonna be able to get a loan for. They don't do that.
They don't do that, number one.
I hate it.
Number two, it is the buyer's cost to pay for the appraisal on the house, which they want to purchase.
It is. I mean, it is in most cases. Again, with this crazy market, someone could put an offer on the house and be like, you're paying for this, this, and this, and this. Normally doesn't work that way. But it normally doesn't. But some people right now, they'll do it, But anyway, that's really what it is. And speaking of that, someone did ask, what are some of these costs? And again, we're going to throw out these terms.
Because we got the sales side and we got the buy side.
Yes, exactly. But appraisals in general, what we have kind of discovered, because again, selling, you don't worry about it. Buying, you have to do it. It kind of ranges. What we found was about $250 to about $500. And that is something you do have to have in hand. That is not part of a loan or anything. So you do have to have that.
Those are normally market-based. So where you live,
it's going to be a little different. I'm just giving a range. So that's something that you do, again, come out of pocket when you are buying. But so that, again, is a little tricky, and that's again why things can get so stressful. And
How stressful?
Very. So let's though move forward again, where you're talking about the fact that contingencies. This is ridiculous. It's crazy what they are allowed to get away with not doing the things contingencies. They have to get certain things done within a certain amount of time of your escrow. And if they're not in a hurry, they can also just back out.
Yes.
And it's scary. And then you're starting all over.
Yeah. So there's things in an escrow process called due diligence periods. Yeah, so those things that have to be done are set in the contract, and they say you have 10 days to get your appraisal done, and then you have another 7 days after that to get your request for repairs and inspections. And so all these timelines are there, and they're designed to keep the process moving forward. But let's just use our example. If you're highly motivated to sell, and the other person is not highly motivated to hurry that process along, they'll wait until the last second of each one of those, and then you get that stressful feeling because you feel like it's about to fall through.
Yes, you have no control, and if you are type A, like me, it is really tough. It's tough though, because it is truly out of your control. There's nothing you can do. You have to just hope, and you'll also hear good faith, that these people are gonna have good faith in doing what they say they'll do. And a lot of the times it works out flawlessly, and a lot of the times it doesn't. And it's just, that's where it's tough. Now, within the due diligence period, again, this is assuming you have like a 30-day escrow, 45-day escrow. That's pretty typical. Again, they have to do the appraisal. We kind of told you 250 to 500. Just again, if you're buying, I want you to know kind of things to expect out of pocket up front. But a lot of the times people will do pest inspections too for like termites and stuff. It's a big deal in a lot of locations. It definitely was in California where we are. I mean, it's common for people to do pest inspections. So you have that. That's about 100 to 200-ish. And you'll also have home inspections. I highly recommend you do that. It is really, really, in my opinion, important. These are things you do not have to do, but I think home inspections specifically, it's important. You may not know if there's a health hazard in your house, you know, just because it looks fine, it's important, I think.
You also know how old your major appliances are, like your air conditioning units, your controller that's normally anything. They give you the dates on when those things are. Moving into a home and you're just like, okay, the guy said the AC was like, meh. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, I need to make sure that I look at this again.
But you wouldn't know otherwise, really, or you'd be guessing a lot.
Until the day it blows up.
But then within that time, too, of doing a home inspection, and again, that kind of ranges, too, from, I'd say, about $300 to about $800-ish. And so, again, these are out-of-pocket things. And upfront. And once you have your home inspection come back, most people do this. And again, I think it's a good idea. When that comes back, what's going to happen is it's going to come back with a request for repairs. And that's where, again, things are really stressful, because up until this point, you think you've sold, you've done it, you know, but now they want this fixed, they want that. And this could cost you thousands. This could cost maybe just a couple hundred, but you don't know until they come back. And then you can also say, no, I'm not doing it. And you take the risk of them saying that I'm not buying it. Again, in this market, most people will probably try to call your bluff and be like, fix this. And if you tell them no, they'll probably still buy it, but there's no guarantees.
If you don't ask, you'll never know. But
it's scary. That's, again, why it's so stressful for this full 30-day process, because there's just so many what if this happens and this happens, you know? And at the end, it's all back to square one if those things happen. So another thing that can also come back, though, from a home request or whatever, is that instead of repairing, they may say, hey, I still want it, but take off $2,000 off your asking price. Most of the time, I'm just throwing that out there, but most of the time, you'll probably take that, especially if you're in a hurry to get out of there. You don't have time probably to repaint and to do things that you're not really caring about, because you're focused on, getting to your other home. There are kind of some loopholes, but that may be what you guys come to negotiating terms. So then from there, let's say you agree to whatever it is, then you're feeling better because you're moving more forward. So you're feeling good. But one more thing, because I told you guys the pest inspection, the home inspection, the appraisal, for cost out of pocket, hotel, food, gas, all the things, depending on where you're going, a lot for that too, but just things that you may not think of. The last thing would be, within that time, when you put an offer on a house, you also put down what's called an earnest deposit, or again, a good faith deposit. You'll hear it kind of multiple ways. This, again, I think kind of ranges anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000, or sky's the limit. I mean, whatever someone's requesting. About that. Your realtor will be able to advise you on what a good offer looks like for an earnest money. And it has a lot to factor in the total cost of the total offer amount of the home. And normally it's a percentage off of that. But that is something you would have to have up front to do. So that's where it can definitely add up for sure. But at the same time, that money does then, it's a deposit. It does go towards your sale once everything is closed. So, but again, you have to have it up front. Yeah. And your earnest money deposit. So what happens is you have that appraisal, right? Yeah. You have your inspections, then you have your request to repair. The moment you come to an agreement on your request to repair, you're locked in on your escrow. Your earnest money deposit as the buyer is on the table. Yes. If you want to pull out because you change your lose your job, change your mind, whatever, that deposit is gone. Yeah, but an agreement which contract. Is great for a seller, that's for sure. It gives you feel like you're locked in. Yeah, you feel more security of okay, well, at least I'm going to get whatever that is if this falls through. But again, if you're someone in our situation, which I think many people who are moving state to state probably are in a similar situation, you don't really care about that money. Yeah. You're trying to go. And if that falls through, you're starting completely over. So it's good, but it's also not really a make or break for most people. You just want to go. So, but again, upfront money, you got to kind of have that and saved up, ready to go. Again, another question was, how much money should I probably have if I'm looking to buy a house and move? It's so hard. I want to say, again, you have to have whatever the deposit is that they're coming up with, I'm gonna say at least like 1,500 to 2,000 for, again, these inspections and stuff. But where it can also go way higher is, and again, it just depends how you're gonna do it, is like a moving company or packers and stuff like that. That's where things can really add up. They can be worth it, but you have to have the money to do that, you know. That's the thing. But that would be kind of my best answer of what to have. If you do a U-Haul yourself, it's a lot of work, but you know, it can definitely save on costs. So one of the most stressful parts, aside from everything we just said, that really became like the big thing for what stressed us out the most was the fact that, again, in old times, a year ago, you could do what's called, when you're going to buy a house, assuming you already own one and you're selling, is you go and you put an offer in on a house, let's just say this one even, contingent upon yours selling, because it makes sense that you're going to get money from that one to put down. That's how it's done.
Absolutely. That's how my grandpappy did it.
Everyone does it.
That's how my Aunt Charlene got her house in Nebraska. That's what you do, right?
That's what you do. That doesn't exist right now. It doesn't exist.
Our realtor, who for our buying side, sweetest lady I've ever met in my entire life. Swear to goodness. She giggled just a little bit.
Well, as one does.
She went, how about we just wait?
She
said, no one will look at your offer.
No one will look.
It's the market is too aggressive. And so, you know, maybe that's a thing later on down the road when people aren't being crazy.
Yeah. But that's so stressful, because what that meant then was that we had to wait till all contingencies were pulled, which is 21 days after the initial offer. 21 days till we could even start. And that is stressful, because you're basically counting down to when you have to be out of the one that you're selling, and you have a very small window of time, assuming you want to get into somewhere very fast, like we did, you know, to get into a home that actually accepts your offer, does an escrow time that works. It is so hard to do that.
It got really nail-biting.
Yeah, it did.
Just going into that period.
It did.
After the 21 days.
That was crazy. It was. And that was when I, you know, again, following vlogs and stuff, I came down here for a week. This was mid-May. And
a phone call happened on a Wednesday morning.
I'm coming.
And our realtor said, we really should look at some houses tomorrow and make offers. Is Kim going to be okay with that?
I'm going. And that's what it was. And, you know, I had mentioned, I did a vlog of like, we got the house, and that was this one and everything. And I kind of shared the story of how this one even came to be. So I won't even really hit on that for this video, because we're already super long. But the idea, and I kind of mentioned it there though, was that we were going to try to get into a house on a Thursday, be aggressive with an offer, and get it pulled before the weekend even comes. And that way you don't have to compete with cash buyers and just, you know, a lot. And that's what happened for us. We got lucky.
I think Kim gives me too much credit, but it was kind of one of those things, like we literally got a phone call during dinner the night that we put the offer in, or that we were going to put the offer in. And it was all the research that I had done. And
he was good.
It was my know-how, and just really looking at the market, looking at the areas, looking at the comps that your realtor gives you. I'm not. They help.
Yeah.
And
to know your ranges of.
And really, I did some quick math, and I said, man, I know we need to be aggressive. Let's not be over aggressive. We're not just throwing money into the wind.
Right.
But you know, we also did a very highly intelligent plan to buy the house.
Yeah.
And a very good, aggressive, fair offer.
Yeah.
And,
but also not dumb to where we're completely upside down now because we went in 200,000 over. No, no. Hopefully you have a very good realtor that can help you through this process, because you shouldn't know how to do all this. Like, this isn't our everyday jobs, you know, doing this and crunching numbers like that.
But also don't take a back seat.
Right.
You're responsible for your decisions.
Yeah,
we hear people say bad stuff about realtors, and we're just like, you gotta know what you're doing too. You gotta pay attention.
You gotta learn to pay attention. Yeah. So we say, you gotta learn to pay attention.
You gotta learn to pay attention.
Yeah.
We put in a good offer to get this house in the time frame that we wanted and everything. There could have been somebody crazy who paid an extra $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 more.
But when we put the offer in, we also, again, being aggressive, it's risky though it is, but you put it in and say you have basically 12 hours to answer. And that tries to avoid someone coming in with a ton more and then they don't even know who you are anymore. But you could also be like, maybe they weren't ready to do it that fast. This house went on the market the morning we showed up was its first day on the market. So the owner could have been like, well, I want to see what happens through the weekend. But if you're aggressive enough too and put that timeline on there, they're also taking a risk that maybe they won't get as good of an offer. And that's what we did. And we wanted it to be, we're done. Like, you're done, I'm done, let's just do this. And she was so sweet. I told you guys, she ended up being the realtor, it was the owner, it was a whole thing. But she was very, very kind and it worked out really well. But that's where it's like, you could look at it and we're in Sin City, we're in the gambling mecca. That's how we felt that day. I'm like, put it all out there. let's see what happens.
I think the exact words were, buy me that house.
Yeah.
I think that was the words
make it happen.
she used.
That did work out. And from there, overall, it was pretty smooth-ish. There's little stories, but for the sake of just showing you the process too of what happens in what order, it was better from there. It was. So then you have your closing date, official date on the one that you sold. So right now with closing dates, and again, the fact that we couldn't start buying earlier because you can't do it contingent upon sale, the escrow dates for the sell and the buying didn't fully match up because clearly one's going to end before that one ends. And so what you end up most likely doing in that case is doing what they call like an owner in possession or a rent back. It's kind of one and the same, but you'll hear it both ways. And that's basically where you're like, okay, it is now officially yours on this close date, whatever, is in contract, but I need to rent it back from you for a couple weeks because I can't get into the other one yet. So if that's in your situation too, you may have to come up with a little bit of money to do that too. And that's just whatever it is you and the buyer determine is fair, Then we got here and then all of our stuff came and we didn't really touch too much on like movers and stuff. We did use movers, not packers. We had to pack everything ourselves, but we did have true movers who take it from that house to here. I did have a question on how much was it to cost of moving cars. So we drove, we're 400 miles from where we were ish, and about 6-hour drive. So we drove our own vehicles, took our own pets and everything with us. But I did look it up once. I did just back in the beginning. And I think for my Camaro, it ranged, and again, being that distance, it was about 1,000 to like 1,500, 1,600. Whether you want them to just put a rope to it and drag, that would be like 1,000.
Technical terms, I see.
Yes. And if you wanted them to, get it off the ground in a little more care, then it's like 15. But let me go through some of these questions too that I might have missed, of course. But my boyfriend always talks about moving to Nevada because it's a lot cheaper than California. Is that true? Obviously, we've only been here less than a month. We haven't even received certain bills yet, technically. So I don't want to be like, oh, it's this, and this. I don't really know still. But there is some big differences. There is. Now, we did not come from, like I said, like LA or Bay Area and stuff in California where you will always hear cost is so high. But we were still in California, Central California, and cost was still high. Now again, being born and raised there, it's kind of all we knew. And so from, Nevada, just one state over, the big differences that stood out is, and we can definitely speak to, is there's no state tax.
Income tax, no state income tax.
Yeah, it's crazy. There is no sales tax on food or medicine. Yep. It's just different, the property tax, that's the big one.
Dude.
That is crazy. Yeah, that is a huge difference for where we come from. Property tax, again, if you're just new to the whole process, when you purchase a home, every year you pay property tax. It's fun. And it's like, I don't want to say wrong, but I feel like almost half.
Yeah, from what we were to where we're at, yes, half.
I mean, that's substantial. That's a lot.
Those are county to county differences too. So even in
that's a difference. I would say gas. Now, I think I've heard a lot of Nevadans say that gas is so expensive right now, and I'm over here like, fill me up.
Our cousin specifically, had a little rant session, and we went, huh?
It's fine. Fill me up. It is higher, I think, everywhere right now. But again, if you're just comparing California to Nevada, it is about $1 difference, give or take. Like it really is. Then I put utilities are definitely, I think cheaper from what I hear. Again, we haven't received every single bill so far, but overall it appears that way. It is a little bit less. Was relocating a really hard decision to make, or were you ready for a new start? So like I said, this all happened within a week's time of like finding out and putting your house up, which I don't recommend, but that's what actually happened. Right. But we had been talking for the last year or so that we were kind of interested in a change. We said Colorado, but this is when things weren't, in full force movement. But yeah, so it wasn't like crazy, and obviously he applied for this promotion, so I mean we knew what we were possibly getting into, but it was we were ready. I think we were.
Life will lead you in different directions. As far as ours was concerned, it was something where we decided, hey, we could see ourselves living there, and we took an opportunity to change scenery, and if you get a promotion out of it. That's kind of cool.
I had another question too that kind of goes with it. Like after you accepted, I think that's how it was said. Did you ever have any regret or reluctancy about moving once you said, hey, we're moving? Once we started the process, did you start to regret it? And don't get me wrong, because I kind of read these with him too. I was like, we both said no. We were both feeling like this was right, it was good, move forward. But again, through all the stresses, you start to question of like, why did I uproot to what was fine?
Did we really need to do this? It didn't have really regret to moving to a certain place or moving in general. It was just the process was just like, wow, stressful. This process is cumbersome mentally, as far as like location
and just feelings and stuff. No, we were set. We're both kind of like that though. I think we're overall like, if we make a decision, here we go. You put your all into it. I know how close you are to your parents. How are they handling you being so far away? And they are far away. It's 400 miles. It's definitely different from the 3 miles that it was before. But they've already been here once. They already planned their second trip here in a couple weeks. So it's also less than an hour flight. And so it's tough, especially with the kiddo, of like not having him every weekend like they did. And obviously it's different, but it's also not so far away to get to us.
They're going to come at least at a minimum 10 times a year.
At least, I'm sure. And we think they'll move eventually, but right now it's the surface of the sun here. I mean, not that it won't be again next year, but it's really not that enticing yet.
No, it's been a little bad.
It's hot. It is. But they're doing good. They are. And someone asked, how is the kiddo handling things? And it was so funny because through this whole process, I got to give him credit where credit's due. He was so helpful and so he was so high about it, like just all these highs of like, and I'm like, this kid's gonna crash, like it's gonna happen. But he'd been so positive and good and excited and no worries about it, and then the first week that he got here, he didn't break or anything. You could just tell he was a little unsettled, and that was like weird to watch because you weren't watching that for the last few months. It was hard. It was tough. He was good, but he was good. Just
it was
edgy.
Like literally the day before a plane flight, he had like a little thing where we had a talk on the plane and at the airport. He had a little bit of a thing, but it was like talking him through, reassuring, things like that. But that little dude's done super good.
Really well.
He's done super good. And even being here now,
way better than me of just the whole process.
Even being here now, I don't really even think it's like a thing anymore. I think he's
good.
He's pretty in tune with home. I think after even a few weeks at school when that starts.
That was a big thing for him because where we came from, elementary school goes through 6th grade. That's our norm. Here it starts junior high in 6th grade, so he's starting junior high, and that is like a little nerve-wracking for him.
So I'm not ready for that.
We weren't there yet. Yeah, so he's just got those. Oh, did you hear that?
Train.
He's gonna run. Train. See, go look. He loves trains, you guys know. Yeah, that was part of it.
So if you're
it's a few blocks behind us.
It's like 2-3 blocks over, but you can see in between 2 of the houses from one of our windows.
Yeah. Was it a freight train? Yeah. Nice. But no, he's doing good. I mean, part of this house too is like, there's a train nearby, he's gonna be fine.
Right. Train park pool.
Yes. Done. What was the hardest thing in the entire process? And we both agreed not having control of when the buyers are in control. That's the hardest part.
It's that finite point to just being like, okay, are they breaking the contract because they're taking a few days extra on these things, and cut that time and start over, or do we give them leeway and let them finish up their process?
Yeah,
on
it's hard.
Their time. And boy, howdy,
boy.
man. We don't want to take you back there. I turned into the old Nate. I was mad. I was so mad.
What would you do differently in the move process? Drink more. What are you doing to connect to your new community? No, I really wouldn't do anything, honestly, like totally different. Although something we didn't really talk about, but here we are 45 minutes in, but I love this house. And again, there's a story that goes with how this house came to and stuff. But when we sold the one that we were coming from, that was brand new when we bought it. We bought from a, subdivision that was being built, and we did that. So we never had a true realtor for that process because it's one that's part of the community there or whatever. And it's a lot easier. I'm not gonna lie. It is a lot easier to buy new. The downfall of that right now is we didn't even look that way at all because we didn't have the time. When you buy a new house, you pick out your lot, you pick the model, and there you go. And then 6 months later, you have your house because they have to build it, We didn't have that kind of time. Again, doing things differently. If I could, I'd like to have that option because, who doesn't want a new home too sometimes, but it makes it easier. It does. But again, we're happy where we are, but that would be cool to have that option for sure. And then how are we there's a few questions with this of like connecting to our community and stuff. So a few people asked too, like, are you lonely, moving away? Do you have friends and all the things here? So again, I've mentioned to you guys before, I grew up coming to Vegas like at least once a year because I do have family here. I have an aunt, I have 2 cousins. One moved to Colorado. We're trying to get them back. And but I still have one cousin here too, and we've already seen them a few times. And so that was comfort in itself too, of even knowing where they lived before growing up. I'm like, I need to go here. I need to, I kind of had my bearings where I wanted to look based on what I remembered and stuff. But yeah, I do have them, and that's helped. And then they have friends and family, and that expands the circle already. And we mentioned our sweet realtor for here, and that was one of my cousin's like best friends. So we were all business for like all of 3 days when we worked together, and then we're like, okay, now we're done, and now we can be friends. So that part, I don't really feel that disconnected, I guess, or that like isolated really. We've met a few neighbors already and stuff. Yeah. But I was telling him too, like, it's tough. One of the questions is what will I miss most from California besides people? But it's more of like, obviously the people, because that's going to be the answer. But like, it's more of being able to just get together with that person, like just on a whim. With any of them, because they're there.
The one thing that was, where we were and where we're at now, and oh my goodness, feels so bad for me. We're in Vegas.
Feels so bad for me. Well, because it's hot.
I actually miss like Yosemite and
that's what he said.
The foothills and stuff like there.
The green.
And I think I just fell in love with it so many years ago, and I brought you guys along a few different times. Trail running and stuff like that. Now there's hills here.
There's tons.
I've even heard that there's a hilly foresty area up in Mount Charleston. Google it. But it's not Yosemite.
Right. It's still different.
It's not the Sierra foothills. it'll be a little different.
Yeah.
I look forward to going up there and taking a look.
I would say that's definitely something we'll miss though too. What are 2 things we're most excited for now that we are here? I would definitely say the food for sure. Because
Thunder Down Under.
Me too. That and we haven't been near the Strip one time.
Sorry.
But no, food for sure because Nate tried so many places over the last 3 months with you guys even, and there's still plenty we haven't even touched.
I'm still jonesing for that sushi.
That Daycon.
I've talked about that thing like 4 times at work.
We haven't done it again though. Excited again to even discover the new trails and stuff too, and kind of the nature here. It's hard right now because it is so hot. It is that you don't really do much right now. We will, you know. What's a new home purchase that you guys are looking forward to buying that you didn't before? So I said 2 things. I'll put a picture here because I just ordered it. It's not here yet, but I just ordered it. A brand new patio set. Again, probably won't sit on it for a couple months till it cools down. And then the pool. Now, obviously, we bought it with the house, so it's not like an addition, but the pool, although that can be a video in itself, it is a lot of work. It is a lot.
It's really cool not to have grass.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I don't own a lawnmower.
He gave it to my dad, and we don't have any grass, and that's really fun.
I remember before you got here, I cheated.
You went in the pool?
I cheated on you. So you want to know my dirty secret? I'll share it here. I ended up closing work the same day I got keys here. So early in the morning, I got the keys. That night I came back because I needed to water the plants out front, which someone doesn't water. And then I was hot and I literally jumped in the pool naked.
Well, that is just wrong.
And it was wonderful.
Well, on that note.
And I've done it every night since.
But anyway, I think that was all of the questions. So I hope this is semi-helpful if you are in the process. And if you are in the process, my heart is with you. And if you're not in the process, no rush. But you know, we are happy. We are settled in. All of our stuff is here. I don't have anything hung, but like our stuff's here. So that is good enough for me.
Minimal.
High five. And
that was weak.
Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.